Hi, my name is Eva. I am a certified canine behavior consultant, and I am very happy you are here listening to this video. I hope it will be very interesting and informative for you because today's topic is Littermate syndrome. And this is something that I think is quite wrongly interpreted because some guardians and also people who are professionally dealing with dogs are convinced that people should not take two dogs from the same litter because what will happen, according to them, is something called littermate syndrome. And this mainly includes two behaviors. Severe aggression will occur between the puppies or adult dogs, and they will be so attached to each other that we are basically talking about unhealthy attachment. And first of all, there is no scientific evidence that would back up these claims. And I think it is very sad that because of this, a lot of dogs don't get an opportunity to live their life with their brothers and sisters. And don't get me wrong, aggression or unhealthy attachment can definitely happen, but the reason isn't because the dogs are related, because there's an equal probability that this can happen in any household where there are multiple dogs. So the behaviors that are attributed to the littermate syndrome are not so much related to the fact that the dogs are related, but it has much more to do with the broader picture of what is happening in these dogs' lives. And I would like to emphasize once more that I do not want to disregard or negate anyone's experience who is going through or went through difficulties within a multiple dog household, especially dog aggression and unhealthy attachment, because that can definitely happen. What I want to achieve with this video is to broaden your understanding of the situation and to become more critical of the reasons that are cited for that to happen. Because the explanation that this is happening because the dogs are related or coming from the same litter is very ignorant to the social patterns of dogs as a species and the broader context in which the dogs live. And my suggestion would be that whenever you are trying to understand dogs better and your dog in general, I would suggest you turn to free living dogs because they can offer the best perspective of who dogs are as a species from the species itself. And then you also turn to your dog, or in this case, dogs, and consider the broader picture from your dog's perspective. Combining those two will give you incredible depth and nuance that not only this problem, but any dog behavior deserves. First, what we have to understand is that dogs are extremely social species. And when we observe free-living dogs, we see that they live in groups. And these groups can be fluid or they can be pretty consistent. The fluidity usually happens in the mating season, and some puppies never live their family. And the group raises the puppies together. So grandmothers, mothers, brothers, sisters of the female help with upbringing and taking care of the puppies to such extent that the researchers had compared it to the human extended family. And it's also possible that puppies' father and other male relatives are included in this care, but in this research the researchers could only definitely confirm the brothers of the female. So if littermate syndrome was a real thing, that would not be possible because the dogs that came from the same litter could not coexist together, especially not in such large numbers as it occurs, where it's essentially a constant practice among dogs. And I think we need to realize one other thing, that conflict is bound to happen among social species. However, we must distinguish between a conflict that arises because there is some sort of disagreement and a conflict where individuals are incapable of coexisting because they would kill each other. The first one is a normal thing that happens in any relationship, but the second is a red flag that we need to address. A fight is a very risky thing for dogs to be involved in because it has a very high price. In the worst case scenario, it can cost the dogs their life. And even in the best case scenario, it can lead to injuries and it consumes a lot of valuable energy. That's why dogs, as a social species, have developed a very wide range of body language that prevents or successfully resolves conflicts so that the fight doesn't even have to occur. But unfortunately, very often, we guardians unknowingly worsen the situation of coexistence between two or more dogs. And we do this by apparent or actual lack of resources such as food, toys, places to sleep, our affection, not providing a life that is in an alignment with the species appropriate lifestyle, unsatisfied needs, encouraging the dog's excitability, stressors, a lack of knowledge of canine communication, and interfering when it would be better for us to not interfere. And on the other hand, the absence of management when it would be absolutely necessary. And all of these things and many more can significantly worsen the relationship between dogs that live in the same household. And I think it would be very interesting to see comparison between so-called aggression and similar behaviors and unhealthy attachment between littermates and dogs who are just roommates. And with littermates, we could also compare free-living dogs and domestic dogs. But what is also true is that we have two or more dogs who are the same age, which means that they go through different life stages at the same time. And we can all remember how pleasant we were when we were teenagers, because in this situation, we don't have a mature dog on the other side who is capable of thinking clearly, de-escalating the situation, but we have another teenager who is not able to think clearly and will potentiate the behavior of the other dog instead of calming it down. But again, that is not because these dogs are related, but because they are the same age, with the same life experience, with the same maturity, or rather immaturity. And that also doesn't mean that we can't successfully resolve these difficult periods with management and lifestyle changes. I already mentioned that dogs are a very social species and that many puppies of free-living dogs don't ever leave their families. In one study, they were observing at what age the puppies leave their family, and the youngest age was 6 months. The most common time for puppies to leave their families was between 1 and 2 years of age, and a lot of puppies, as I've mentioned, never left their families. So in a country that I come from, the legal age for puppies to be taken from the litter is 8 weeks, which we now see that it's very, very early, and puppies would never leave their families at such young age. So let's see. The puppy was taken away from their family very prematurely. They lost their mother, their siblings, the environment that they were familiar with and felt safe in. And those dogs who are fortunate enough to go into the new home with their brother or sister at least have one familiar and safe thing that they are used to. And for me, it's completely logical that in that moment, which is very difficult and it can be also traumatic for dogs, that they want to cling onto the one known, familiar, and safe individual that they know, their brother or sister. And I think the question here is it fair of us to demand such independence and confidence of a puppy, which is basically a baby, in a very, very difficult moment? And I'm not sure that people, or a lot of people, realize how traumatic that situation can be. And instead of giving them time and patience and opportunity to grow into confident, more independent individuals that will not freak out when their brother or sister is not with them, what is suggested to guardians is that they have to, as fast as possible, ensure that the puppies don't become too attached to one another. And the techniques that are used are just confirming the biggest fear of the puppy, that life without their brother or sister is terrifying. And as I said at the beginning, aggression or aggression-related behaviors, unhealthy attachments can definitely happen in multi-dog households. But the reason for that is not because the dogs are related or littermates. I would say the opposite, that keeping littermates together can be an excellent opportunity that is denied to most dogs. And it is up to us as guardians to create conditions for pleasant coexistence in the household with multiple dogs, whether they are related or not.